Hello, it's Melinda from Alexis and I nearly did it again. What channel are we? Alexis and Melinda's Art Space. Oh my god. I'm gonna write it down and stick it on my laptop, I think. Um, Coming on with Mission May. Mission Inspiration May. Mission Inspiration is a 8-step process to construct a journal page. The steps are very vague, so you can interpret them how you like. You just gotta follow them in order. So I'm working in one of my recycled books. This is a recycled Road Atlas book, a Reader's Digest one. So I've removed some pages from it and glued every second page together. And as you can see at the front, I put some masking tape down the center of the spine just so water and stuff wouldn't go down there. So I just gessoed that to start with. I've put that aside to dry. And getting on to our first step, sorry, just bring it back up on my phone. So the first step is to use bits of graph paper or composition paper. So I thought that was a bit boring. So I decided to stamp on my graph paper first. So it doesn't say you can't stamp on it, it doesn't say you can. So use graph paper, you can use plain graph paper, you can use stamped graph paper. So I decided to stamp on mine. So this is a sort of a school set I picked up. It was free with a magazine. The magazines are $20, so the stamps aren't really free, but it's a good deal for that amount of stamps. It's about an A4 size sheet of stamps. I bought these quite a few years ago. I went through a stage where I picked up lots of magazines because I didn't have many rubber stamps, and it was a good way of getting them in Australia because Australia didn't have many rubber stamp places. These would be quite a few years old. So just randomly picking the school-based ones. The book you see at the moment is just my wipe-off journal. It's stuff where I put extra paint. I stamp stamps and just build up background pages to later use. So just making sure I turn the stamps around or turn my paper just so it's not all the one direction. Wanting it to be quite random. So there's an aeroplane. I love the glasses in here. I wish the glasses wasn't attached to the actual little composition of things. I'd probably use the glasses a lot more, but that's okay. There's no way to cut it out. Sometimes I do take some of the stamps apart, but I love the girl on that one too. I've done some awesome stuff with the girl. So I was stamping with archival ink because I knew I was going to put some watercolours over the top of it. So just putting some baking paper or some Glad Bake in Australia it's called behind my pages, so when I go and paint or stick I'm not putting stuff on the next pages. So just tearing up the graph paper into pieces, and I love how it turned out. I'm actually going to go stamp on some more graph paper with some other stamps just to make some fun background papers so they're all sitting there ready for me to use. To glue it down I'm using my favourite Liquitex matte medium, my favourite matte medium to stick it down on. It was picked up on clearance at Spotlight probably about 12 months ago, and it's really goes on really smooth, and it goes on really matte too, so I'll highly recommend that one. It is quite pricey if you can't get it on clearance or special, but I usually pick it up when it's at least 40% off or 50% off. So just trying that with a heat gun in a minute. I must have gone to get something. I did watch this before I did the voiceover, but I didn't think I was this long. So chat amongst yourselves. How's your day going? Oh, I'm back. I must have been, that's what I was doing. I actually filmed this a couple of weeks ago. So I have a box of scrap papers, and anytime I use a piece of paper and there's a scrap left, I'm throwing it in this box, and it's sort of our go-to box to get stuff from if we just want bits and pieces. So step 2 is add jelly paper or stamped book pages. Jelly paper, if you haven't heard of jelly paper before, it's from a jelly plate. It's basically a surface you roll paint out on, you make marks and impressions in it, and then you take a print. So these ones with the holes in it I've obviously used for another project and punched out holes to use for something else. So just tearing those into or cutting those into just odd shapes. I love how the stamps are peeking through the holes that I made in a couple of the areas, so just adding some of those. So trying to put stuff together to use up. This is my use it up year this year. So all my bits and pieces are being sort of grouped together and used up. Whether in a journal, in something to give away, my daughter can use them out of that box. They're sort of stuff that's not so precious anymore. I'm getting over the it's too precious to use. So step 3, use one of the suggested paint colours. Along with Mission Inspiration, he now does 3 suggested paint colours. So this month's was teal, lavender and grey. So just giving that a good old dry from when I actually stuck down the papers, and then I'll bring the paint colour in. So I decided on teal or a light blue. It was close to teal as I had in my stash. I'm off camera again. What am I doing? I must have gone to get the paint. Maybe. Hey, look, I'm back. I can see my shadow. Okay. I must edit these videos a bit more. So this is a heavy body paint. Basically, a heavy body paint is a thick paint. So there I am watering it down, because if I painted the heavy body paint over everything, I'd lose the stamped images and the graph paper and the map in the background. So I wanted all those things still to show through. So watering down the paint, you can sort of make it more translucent, and it will allow the things underneath to show back through. So there's my wipe off book again. I've been using it as a paint palette, so I've actually been squirting my paint out into it and using it to have the paint on, and then when I'm finished I just cover the page with the excess paint that I've squeezed out. I do have a video on that book. It's just a collection of junk mail that I've just stitched together so that I have somewhere to put excess paint, save from wasting it. So just giving that a big good dry, and then our next step is in a couple of minutes. So I didn't really have an idea of where this page was going before I started. I really struggled to find a focal point, because I sort of started with the graph paper, went to sort of the school sort of themey. So the next step, step 4, is use bits of twine, ribbon, lace or yarn. So these are actually pieces of cardstock that I cut on my laser machine for my business, and it was going to be a new product line, but the cardboard just didn't work, this particular cardboard I bought, so these are a couple of scraps I had in my stash. So I just decided to stick those down. Again, they were thrown in that box, and I was rummaging through the box looking for lace or trim or twine or something to do. So step 5, was use 3 focal images. So apart from the scrap box, I have another box, I have lots of boxes, of focal images or photocopies of things or printouts of things, more focal images than backgrounds. So these were some flashcards that I photocopied quite a few years ago to use in some swap ATCs or something I was using. So these, I thought, went really well with the sort of school theme I had in the background. So I played around so much with trying to get the positioning of these right, and then decided on a sort of a fan effect. Made sure they were on cardstock, so I made sure I pushed that one quite well into the crease of the book so it will fold. Step 6 was make marks with household items. So I decided to go with black paint because I had the black lace element on the page and a little bit of black in the focal point, but nothing else. So I decided to use a cap off a deodorant bottle, I think this big one is. And then I use, I think it's the bottom of a glue stick. So just wanting some circles in the background to tie in with the circles I had that are cut out of the jelly print papers. And it sort of softens the whole layout, so just going a bit crazy doing dots and circles. I love how some of the circles are really heavy on one side with paint and almost not there on the other. It just gives it a really nice splattery effect. So there I am, just adding the rest of the paint all over the page in my wipe off journal. It saves clean up too. It saves me cleaning a paint palette. I get really lazy when I art journal. So if I don't have to clean up, it's really good. So if you put your paint on a piece of paper, and if it's a shiny piece of paper, it will actually, the paint will sit on top of it in a big blob, so you're able to use it. Okay, the next step was add words for the month. Now, since January, Mike Deacon has been putting together words that go with sort of the theme, and you can use them or you can't. Usually the prompt doesn't say use them, but this month it did. So the words we had this year were flower, accomplish, climb, reach, hike, succeed. So I decided to grab some little stamps. Now these stamps are really, really old. I had them prior to Alexis being born, prior to my shop, so we're going back 12, oh my god, 13 or 14 years. I've had these stamps. They were bought at Kmart originally for $2, like 14 years ago. Told you I'm pulling out some old stuff from my stash. These haven't seen the light of day for quite a few years. So I decided to use some of those words that went along with sort of the school theme. So just using archival ink again, so accomplish, and just scattering those words all over the page. I love how that looks. These little stamps are great because they're on little bits of foam, and you can sort of see to line them up, but if they're not specifically lined up correctly and they're a little off, they're a little up, down, or a little crooked, it doesn't matter. They look really cool. So I encourage you to find something that is quite old in your stash and get it out and use it. So I had quite fun using these, and I will put them now in my sort of everyday, they're a nice everyday font, so my sort of everyday area of bits and pieces to use a lot more, because they should see the light of day a lot more than once in 12 to 13 years, I think I worked out. Oops. I'm sure you all got stuff that's that old in your stash. I can hear a few of you nodding. Oh my god, I can't talk today. I can hear a few of you nodding. So I just added the word ABC as well, just as some spaces needed filling in. And that was step 7, so add words of the month. Step 8 was add cardboard / scrapbook paper strips. So I just dry off my ink, and I think my paint was still a bit wet at that stage as well. So I'm really happy how this one turned out. It's very different to what I usually do with the 3 flashcards there, but I do like how it turned out. I especially love the stamped grid paper, so I'll be doing that again. Every January when our kids go back to school, our local stationery shops and even our Kmarts and Targets usually have grid paper books for like 20 cents for that 64-page book you saw at the front. So it's a great time to stock up on them. That's actually a bigger grid than I thought I was purchasing. I picked up 5 in a stack, and the first 2 were the small grid, and then I thought I was getting the small grid for all of them, but didn't. Well, playing around with some strips of paper, didn't really know what to attach, didn't really want to detract from what I was doing. So there's a little bicycle, didn't want to use that. So I end up cutting a few little strips and just adding sort of here and there. In the blue tone still, it's a very monochromatic layout in the background actually, with black added. So again, using the Liquid Text Matte Medium, I got that right, that's a mouthful and a half to say, to attach those down, and then this page is done. So Mission Inspiration, there's a Facebook group that goes along with the mission as well, so you can showcase your works of art if you don't make YouTube videos. It's a fun process, especially if you're having a bit of journaling block, or you're not so inspired, you want to try something different. It certainly pushes you outside your comfort zone, but it's fun. Sometimes I don't like the page at the end, sometimes I do, sometimes there's things I'd like to change, but it's a different way to work, and it's a fun way to work. I've been doing these challenges now for probably about 18 months it's been running, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. It's fun. Thank you for watching. I've got a few seconds left. We'll do the plug that I usually don't do at the end of my videos. If you like this, give us a thumbs up. I don't like when people say it. And if you like my channel, you can subscribe. Just decided that the focal cards needed a bit of black around them just to highlight them and make them pop from the background. So just fizzing around doing that with a pen that actually works. So the first pen didn't work, so this one I bought in just a texter just to define them a little between each other and around the edge. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.